Thank you all for joining us this morning, and special thanks to Pat Felder for hosting us, and for Congressman Bill Cassidy and Charles Bustani for coming out. The reason we're holding this event is we wanted to debut our study on the impact of cap and trade on the state of Louisiana. As you all know, there is proposed climate change legislation being discussed in Washington, and it's an important issue for everybody around the country, but particularly here in Louisiana. And so what we wanted to do was take a look at the legislation and see exactly how would it impact our state. This study is a joint project of the Pelican Institute for Public Policy and the American Council for Capital Formation. And if you have any questions afterwards of a very technical nature, I can put you in touch with the author of this report, Margot Thorning. The reason we wanted to engage in this study was that policymakers like these congressmen are struggling with the question of what to do about potential environmental problems. And as they make their decision, they need to have accurate information about the costs associated with any potential legislation. Policy decisions require a sort of cost-benefit analysis, and it's not an exact science, but anytime you're trying to address a problem, you need to know what the costs of this possible solution are going to be. So naturally, the study which we're distributing has a lot of detailed information about what the impact of cap and trade legislation would be. I encourage you to read the full report and follow up with any questions. But I'd like to, before turning things over to the congressman, I'd like to highlight a few key facts from this study. Three things I want to point out. First of all, cap and trade would lead to higher energy prices. I think we all know that, but that's something that's real important and would have a real big impact on everybody around the state. Also, businesses would face a very high cost in complying with the required cuts in emissions, and that would have a big impact on our economy. Also, putting these greater restrictions on our businesses would lead to overseas manufacturers getting more of our business, and we would lose jobs. So to give you some specific numbers that this report contains, regarding employment in Louisiana, by the year 2030, Louisiana would lose between 26,000 and 35,000 jobs. That's a pretty breathtaking number when you think about it. 26 to 35,000 jobs in the state of Louisiana. The gross state product would be reduced by 5.1 to 6.9 billion dollars, again by the year 2030. The industrial output would be decreased by 5.4%. State budget revenues, tax revenues would be reduced by about $690 million by 2030. Now you think about the challenges our governor and our legislature are facing right now with the budget shortfalls, and imagine what they would be dealing with if we were facing those kinds of decreased tax revenues. So money for hospitals and law enforcement, things like that would really suffer, and they would be put in really an impossible situation. And then household income would decline by about between $485 and $874 by 2030, and this would have a disproportionate impact on lower income and elderly people who spend a very large portion of their income on energy costs. So to summarize, cap and trade legislation would have a devastating impact on the state of Louisiana. I certainly understand that legislators are facing a dilemma in that there's a lot of concern over the state of our environment and what problems we may face down the road, and that's a legitimate issue. But we can't do something that might provide very uncertain benefits without understanding the very certain costs that would come along with that.